8088 state in the palm of your hand. Well, to be honest, you'd need to have giant hands, but it's now mid-September, and this being ChinnyVision, I'm now looking at something that came out in mid-June. The book 8088, which is a 8088 portable PC in a laptop form for less than £200 from a Chinese vendor. And people were going nuts about these. Must have been, I got mine in June, and you'll see me unpacking it on the screen here. And loads of reviews of them at the time, but I didn't have time to review mine. And also, if you watch the channel regularly, you'll know that I'm not really interested in being first with the news and having exclusives and stuff. I do everything in my own time, so it's taken from, I think mine arrived on June the 8th, and it's now September the 19th. You probably won't see this until Christmas. So, yeah, but you'll see me unboxing it on the screen. Came over from China, took about 3 weeks, I think. Spent most of its time actually on the journey in the UK being sorted out by Border Force, which I think is just a sinister agency of HMRC to make sure I'd paid all my taxes. Easy to buy, and we can have a look at the listing. In fact, I'll bring it up on screen for you so it's easier than you looking at printouts. But for your money, you get an 8088 DOS notebook, CJ graphics, IBM PC XT, compatible machine 8088, 8086 CPU. Okay. Gives you a spec which says it's got 640k of memory and optional 8087 co-processor. It's an 8088 processor running at 4.77 megahertz and 8 megahertz. It comes with a 0.5 gig compact flash card, CJ graphics, and an optional Yamaha OPL3 sound card. And the system is DOS 6.22 and Windows 3. There's also a USB socket on it and an ISA bus expansion. And the things here detail how it's not a standard ISA. Well, it is you need to buy a breakout board they sell basically if you want to plug in your ISA cards. But let's have a look at the unit itself, because this is exciting, right? You'll be able to run 8088 software in a little notebook. And first thing you notice is it feels like a netbook of years gone by. Remember those things? Mrs. Chinny used to have one with Windows XP on it, a little netbook. Open it up. That's definitely a netbook keyboard, isn't it? With a Windows key. Everything's slightly smaller, feels very netbooky. No, you think these things here are mouse pads. They are not. You've got two speakers in here for, well, it's not going to be stereo sound, isn't it? Really, but you've got an OPL3 logo there, 8088 processor. So lots of mentions of the 8088 processor. MSDOS logo, CJ graphics. A very reflective screen. Very reflective screen. With a screen protector, it doesn't come off down the bottom there, if you can see that. Moved it forward for you, so the continuity's gone. But there's a little tab here, presumably to pull off a screen protector, because the screen's all scratched and horrible and very reflective. So I'm wondering if I need to take the screen apart to take the screen protector off, because there's definitely something on there. It does not, even with my fingernails, want to come off. I will investigate that. But very shiny screen, and obviously very small speakers in there. You have, I look at we've got little flaps here, down here. We'll look at those in a second. We've got a headphone out there, if you can see that. There for a 3.5mm jack. On-off switch, which comes separately in a little bag. You need to press it on to get it on the machine. Oh dear. Round the back, 12-volt power supply, which we'll come to in a second. The ISA expansion, that's non-standard unless you've got the special breakout board, which isn't very expensive, which will then let you plug in ISA cards. 0.5 gig compact flash card in the side. Not one of those nice ones you press in and press out. You have to put it in your fingernails. And I have to be honest here, the card I would not describe as new. It looks well used. STEC, don't know who they are. Any date codes or anything, can't see. It'll do the job, but it is clearly, it's come from the e-waste, hasn't it? Or is old, I don't even think it's old stock. This has been used. This has been very, very used, given how well that markings there have rubbed off. Put it back in. Get in the right way. Clicks in. Also on the side here, you have a USB port. That is storage only. Can't plug a mouse in or anything else. It's USB storage only. That'd be FAT16, obviously. Very similar to how your GoTech work. Well, no, I imagine actually it's going to interface into the, not like a GoTech where there's images. You can actually be able to save directly onto the card because you can with the compact flash. Battery indicators and charging indicators there. Can't see the markings. There are 4 lights. One for compact flash access, 1 for charging, and 2 to indicate battery status. And while we're looking around all the ports on here that I'm showing you, compact flash, USB, the kind of proprietary ISA connector on the back, you'll notice one thing. There's no external video connector, no composite, no 9-pin, whatever it is, however many pins a VGA one is, or those is a CJ, obviously. No RGB out, no composite or anything like that. It is just outputting via the screen. And yeah, that's a problem because you are stuck with the 16:9 screen built into the machine that isn't very good. So let's open it up and take the flaps off. The plastics are cheap. It's the only nice way I can, but they're transparent, which you think would work really well, but it's just that cheap smoked transparent plastic you sometimes see on certain retro items. And they're quite fiddly and feel a little bit brittle, but hey ho. Right, so get you in. Again, continuity out, because it's easier for me to move the netbook, the 8088 book, than it is to move the camera. So in here we have an OPL3 sound card that interfaces directly onto the main board. You know the deal with these. I've already got a parallel port version of one of these for ChinnyVision. It should output through the speakers, but also has the little jack there. Screw down with 4 screws. You can buy the netbook. I keep calling it a netbook. You can buy the 8088 book without one of these installed, but you can also buy these separately as well. I don't know if they actually plug into anything else. I think you buy it separately, these only plug into these machines, I would imagine. Over here, I tilt the machine up, you have a Cirrus Logic chip. I can't see, my eyesight's not as good as it used to be. I think it's the I/O chip. Is it Cirrus Logic? I can't really see there. And then you have your 8088. Except, what do we have here? I'll get my ChinnyVision pen so you don't have to look at my horrible fingernails. NEC. I can catch the light there. V20. NEC V20. That is not an 8088. This is sold as the 8088 book. It's an 8088 compatible chip, but it is not an Intel 8088. And this is critical because these don't run at the same speed as the 8088. They like the V30 that I have in my Amstrad PC 2086. It runs slightly faster than the equivalent Intel, i.e. same clock speed, but it actually processes more data, cycles and so on. I'm not a PC expert, as you can probably tell. So if you're relying on cycle perfect timing in your software, or you want games to run at exactly the correct speed, you are, going to have to go and find an 8088 to put in here. Luckily I have one, we'll look at that later. You can also install an 8087 coprocessor. However, the manufacturers warn that will not only get very hot, but it also drain the battery double quick, because this thing runs off battery as well, which we'll come to in a minute. So that's what you've got on the front. So you've already, it's not an 808 book, 8 book. It is a V20 book. And let's have a look at what we've got on the back. And we've got another compartment here. That feels like something's going to snap, but it's okay. So we have, I can't see now. Well, that's a CRTC chip there, but I think it's labelled on there as such. You have a ROM there, which is the CGA bits and pieces. Is that some memory down there? And you've got something else socketed there. This machine is a mix of old and new components, which you can probably see through the case. So you can see some, are they ASICs or something in there? I can't see, big square chips. And you've got your battery there. So they're mixing up components, old and new. There is also somewhere, in fact, is that the BIOS? I wonder if that's the BIOS actually there. Because then that would make sense being pluggable and EEPROM. And there is a thing about this book as well, which we'll come to in a minute, in that the BIOS in this has been, stolen. Well, it also comes with a copy of Windows and DOS as well. So, yeah, the attitude to IP is pretty poor, if we're honest. Just need to put my flaps back on. 2 seconds. Right, I've got my bits back together finally. I mean, the plastics are really hard to insert back in. One other thing I want to look at the back for is this, which is the battery. Yes, it's an 8088/V20 that runs off of battery. And that is it's a 4,000 milliamp hour battery of unspecified manufacturer. I say unspecified, couldn't well say in Chinese there, but it's not a famous name, put it that way. 14.8 watt hours, 3.7 volt cell. Looks fairly standard, so if that knackers out, you can probably replace that easily yourself. The problem is, of course, that your old V20 or 8088 isn't exactly a efficient processor in terms of, modern processors are energy efficient. Try not to use energy when they're not doing anything. Whereas, of course, these CPUs and all these components just run flat out the entire time. So it'd be interesting to see how well it runs. Also in the box, you get a power supply. Yeah, what brand's this? Taka, so presumably endorsed by Paul Darrow in Timelash. 12 volts, 1.5 amps. Doesn't seem like a lot for 1.5 amps, really, for this. And of course, it doesn't have a British adapter on it, or plug on it, so you're going to have to plug it into a adapter there, like that, once fused, I would suggest. But to be honest, I'd suggest just throwing this thing away and finding your own kind of adapter. 12 volt should be fairly easy enough. There's a barrel jack on there, if you can see that. So that's not going to be hard to replace. I'm not sure I'd be wanting to leave the unit charging with a unspecified adapter. Especially because this thing takes quite a long time to charge. Again, just for size comparison, I'll put a ChinnyVision pen on the keyboard there so you can see it's pretty dinky. It's pretty dinky. We need to turn this thing on, don't we? And I guess because of reflections, I'm going to have to turn the lights off. So 2 seconds. Right, okay, you're going to be getting a slight reflection of the camera back. But there you go. It will become clear why we need to be so dark in here to see the screen. I am aware that there could well be this screen protector on the screen, but I just cannot get it off. So again, that could be causing more reflectivity issues. But when I take this apart later, I will see if I can sort that out. So let's turn it on. Right. Okay. It does that sometimes. Let's wait a little bit and turn it back on. Right, try again. Oh dear. It was doing this a little bit last night. I have charged the battery. It could be the battery's not charged enough. It could be it wants the mains adapter on. It could be it's just permanently broken, because I've been using this over the past few months and it's generally been fine. Yesterday, I started to have problems after I did an extensive battery test and I ran the battery all the way down, and it's not been quite the same since. It's had over 6 hours on the charger, but the battery management on it is abysmal in terms of telling you what's going on, and I suspect the charger isn't beefy enough. Let's try again. Oh, what a hunk of junk. Oh, it's booting! It's booting! It's booting! Hooray! Can you see the screen? Yeah, you probably can't, because that's as bright as it gets. Oh, no, it's done a memory check and it's seen 48K. I'm going to level with you at this point of the review. This thing is a hunk of junk. You may have seen reviews of this thing, LGR going, well, it's not too bad. These people need to be encouraged. This is cheap Chinese crap. And where it's come from it's clearly an enthusiast who's making it, but the company who are retailing it are making stuff for CNC machines and things like that. And the reason is, if you go into a factory or somewhere like that, as I do, you get these massive metal lathe machines, CNC machines, and other machines that cost sometimes millions of pounds, certainly hundreds of thousands of pounds, for the base end ones. And as a consequence, these machines hang around for years. And it's not happy, is it? I'm going to plug it in. As a consequence, these machines hang around for years. And 30, 40 years. So they need parts. They need stuff that can communicate with them. And there are companies, especially in China as well, who make stuff using old parts. So you can have an 8088, 8086 computer to interface with your machine, to replace boards and provide parts for them. I know one company not far from here who actually refurb these machines, and they put Gotex in them. They put LCD displays in them. They refurb them, recap them, and then they go back out to the factories for another 30 years of life. I'm going to need to plug the power supply in, but as I say, I suspect that is where these machines come from and where these parts are coming from. It's an enthusiast, at least working in one of these companies, and they've gone, hey, we've got all this stuff. We can produce a little laptop. And in theory, it's a great idea, but it's so poorly implemented. Right, I need to plug this beast in. I've just had a hunch that the supplied supply is just junk. And I've just been rummaging around in my box of precious things and found a matching supply, a 1.5 amp 12 volt positive center supply from an old Draytech router. So hopefully a good quality one. Let's just try again and see what happens. I'll just pull the screen out. We'll see. Nope. I need to leave it charging longer with the Draytech, don't I? Okay, I've had my lunch. It's had about 40 minutes charging. Someone started some power tools up outside, so that's helpful. Let's see what happens. It's had 40 minutes on this new charger and about 10 minutes on the old one, as well as 6 hours last night on the old one. So here's hoping. Right, okay. I'm going to have to tell you about this unit, aren't I? Well, it's got the screen is 16 by 9 or 16 by 10 actually, is that? Anyway, it will stretch everything out across the screen. The screen is incredibly dim. I took it on holiday with me in July down to Cornwall and I couldn't see a thing during the daylight hours. At night I could see it. In darker areas it's fine. There's no adjustments at all. Likewise, there's no adjustments for the volume. Those speakers there are for the OPL sound card, and there's also an internal beeper down there somewhere. The SD card, the USB stick adapter on the side thing doesn't work at all. It will require a a BIOS update to work. So you're going to have a ROM flasher to do that. Yeah, let's go over to me last night doing the battery test, so at least you can see how long it lasts for. Inserting this bit into the edit, because I'm going to give you a perfect example of how the 8088 book plays up. It's the night before the main review recording. Just loaded some things onto my compact flash card to show it off tomorrow. And I'm in DOS. If you can see the terribly reflective screen there. I'm typing stuff out there to load up Bubble Bobble. Busy typing, and it has frozen. It has frozen. Battery is pretty good. It's been charging for about 3.5 hours. I unplugged it because actually it was having problems booting up. There's something very weird about this box. Something very weird. It's just not stable. It's just not stable. There's something going on. If I turn this off now, as I say, battery should be good. Turn it back on again. It might start up. It is checking the memory. And this time, because I'm recording, it'll probably work fine. But yeah, there's something weird going on here. I'll just restart it quickly. It's real world testing scenario, isn't it? You might reset a machine, turn it off, turn it on again. And here we are. So my battery test slightly messed up because it's going to be off for a little bit. Come on you go. Will it start this time? Yes, it starts. I think you need to leave it for a few seconds if you want it to actually behave itself. But it does do this kind of stuff. It's like there's something with the battery pack. It needs the power to go, be removed from the entire circuitry. I don't know. Anyway, I will continue doing the battery test. Is it going to work? Is it going to do something? Is it going to do something? Is it working? Well, no, hang on, we're in. It was. Is that another weird glitch with it being reset? That it wouldn't memory check until it had been off for about 30 seconds? Or am I watching the end of life of the battery? What's the indicator saying on the side? So that's now changed slightly. It's still flashing, between there. So yeah, we're at 1 hour 36 minutes or about that, and I thought it had gone, but apparently it must be that reset glitch again, where you really do have to turn it off for 20 seconds or so, if not more, before it comes back on. I will continue to time. No, it always hangs at this point. Come on. You gonna do it? There we go. Yeah, I suspect what you're probably going to find with this is that the battery monitoring doesn't exist. And when the battery's low, you're going to get no warning other than the entire machine becomes incredibly erratic. So that's the battery test. 2.25 hours I got off it. No real warning, unless you keep an eye on those indicator lights on the side that show you when it's alternate flashing fast. It's on low battery, but you don't know how much it's using. Now I've been reading the data sheets as well as we try and reboot again. The 8088, the stock one, uses 350 milliamp hours, so that would kind of add up. But apparently the V20, oh dear, uses slightly less, but 2.25 hours seems about right for a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. that has a load of old components in it. Now here's the thing, out of focus there. See that light on the side? That indicates the battery is supposed to be, if it's blinking between them, just kind of standard use. When it's blinking fast, it's low. So I've managed to charge it with that Draytech 12 volt charger, or one supplied by Draytech, it's not made by them, up to a point where the battery's got some power in it, and this thing is still squealing at me and not working. So it's not the battery, it's something to do with the notebook itself. You'll notice in this review there's precious little footage of the machine actually running software because, I didn't take any while I was doing the testing over these months. But thankfully I did take a little bit of footage just for other uses yesterday when I was doing the battery test. So Windows 3 is included on the compact flash card, as well as MS-DOS, and I'm sure that's all perfectly legal, as well as the few games included on the card. Windows 3 loads up. This is the last version of Windows that will run on a machine lower than a 286. All the other versions need a protected mode system, I believe. The issue is, of course, that you've got no mouse and no way of plugging in a mouse unless you add a card in on that ISA-bus. So limited as to what you can do in Windows, but it's fine. It works. What more can you say? And to show that sound card included actually works, here's Bubble Bobble running with the tiny tinny speakers that aren't quite as bad as people seem to report. Some people have reported a crackling issue on these speakers. I haven't noticed it on this one, but, I've noticed all the other issues. If you'd asked me last night as I pull my screwdrivers over here, I would have said, well, this device is an interesting curio that you could get to run a few DOS games on and play around with. Even, if you're prepared to tinker, you can update the bar so the USB port works, so you can load stuff on easier. Or you can, so just take the compact flash in and out. But today, I'm with it starting to play up last night, as you could see in the battery test. I'm kind of going, well, yeah, it's just more AliExpress e-waste, isn't it, really? You can look at all the good intentions, people saying, oh, well, it's an enthusiast doing this and putting it together. But if an enthusiast is putting together absolute junk, then what's the point? You're better off not having it. I saw one, it was LGR, who said, well, this kind of thing should be encouraged, I think, in his review, something along those lines. But really? I remember a few years ago, the Future was 8-bit made those custom portable Commodore 64s, and they were quite nice. They had decent screens. I think you're stuck with the 16:9 problem. But they were built with some kind of quality using decent parts. This feels like the cheapest plastics known to man. I need a better screwdriver. I've got a better screwdriver somewhere. Oh well. These things are built with the plastics, cheapest plastic known to man, and aren't reliable. So where are you going to take this and use it? It's got the ISA-bus thing on the back, which is pretty cool. You can plug stuff in, but I'm going to find a better screwdriver. Right, better screwdriver in here. It's still nearly £200. But something that kind of, the cool factor doesn't override the fact it's so poorly thought through. You need some kind of better battery indicator than just a couple of flashing lights. You need a screen that can be adjusted in terms of, brightness, not to have it incredibly dim. Apparently, the people who sell it suggest that you can make a modification with a capacitor to the screen circuitry. It's like, why didn't you do that before it left the factory? Didn't you notice it was incredibly dim? It's half-arsed. It's absolutely half-arsed. It's taking a good idea and going, well, we're not going to do it properly. We do it to the bare, it's the old AliExpress thing of, well, as long as you've sent the money out, you send the money, we send you something. And I wish I'd looked at this earlier so I could have warned people rather than people getting too excited about these things. Why is that not coming out? You know, it's taken me 3 months to get around to the full review of this, and perhaps this device wouldn't have failed within, you know, if I'd reviewed it back in, say, July after I'd had it for a month. But who knows? Who knows? And it might be fixable. It might be something stupidly obvious when I open it up. Oh, look, it's got a loose connection or something. But I've just got this feeling that something's just gone rather terminally wrong with it. There is no VGA out, or, you know, CGA out, or composite out, or anything. The only way to display graphics is on the built-in display, which means you're stuck with a horrible 16:9 or whatever it is stretch display that frequently goes wrong. If you're in dark, you switch screen modes, it goes wrong, and it's just, you end up having to type in mode 80 to get it to work. Oh, flimsy keyboard. Flimsy keyboard. How's this come off? Oh my, that was quite tedious getting this out. There's the bottom of the case with the lithium battery in it there, with just a lead off there for the charging. And here's the main board, the guts of the thing. Some of which you can see via that case on the flap on the bottom that hides up the CGA circuitry. Inside, and by the way, getting this out was no fun at all. Really tightly fitted in. Had to use the spudger to gently bend the plastic to get it to release. Even though it was screwed in, it's also tightly done. It's not very well finished, shall we say. It's not what you'd expect it for something that was expecting to be serviced, that you'd be taking it into a repair shop or something and then having to mess around for ages trying to just gently prise out all the connectors because they're all in so tightly. Yeah, so you've got a pad here that protects the lithium battery, and I'm not an electronics expert, so, you know, I'm not going to tell you too much about what's in here. We've got these chips here which look interesting. They are modern chips, presumably doing a lot of the stuff that the circuitry in the original IBM PC would have been doing. I don't know if they're ASICs or what. They're coded ATFI 508 CGA-A. Something custom for this unit that they or this manufacturer uses these in their CNC kit. All socketed as well for ease of repair. I'm assuming, what's this down here? RAM? Get you in there. I can't see from over here. It's upside down. All the electrons are fall out. I can't read that. Could be RAM, but it could be RAM there as well. I don't know what's going on. This thing is still, when it does boot, it's reporting 48k of RAM, apart from the one time it reported 100 and something or other. Now, interestingly, I was looking online to see if this fault was something that was common, and one of the big sites talked about his machine only booting up with 128k of memory and it having to be sent back to China, or actually not being sent back to China. It got sent a replacement because it had a dried solder joint, although the translations were auto-translated on AliExpress were rather poor. You can see the PC beeper. That's there. It doesn't come out of the external speakers on the top. It's all there. Anything else in here? I've not disconnected the keyboard ribbon connector because it looks a bit fiddly. There is... no, it's... The display's there. I wonder if I can get that display out to see if it'll... I can get that cover off it, but there's not an awful lot in here, really. I can't see any evidence of dry joints, but... yeah, I don't know. See, that could be RAM there as well. You don't know how they're doing it, because they're not going to be using original chips. They're using modern RAM somehow to do all this. The ISA bus comes off of there. That's the compact flash bits and pieces. So, yes, I just don't know what is wrong with this unit. Right, I'm over here, I'm off mic, but you'll have to put up with that. I've got inside the screen here, and you can see the control board for the screen there. That is what's been poking out. Is it the... What's it going to do? Is it going to take off a... No, come here. I mean, this says it all really, doesn't it, in terms of the quality of the finishing. They just leave bits of sellotape on the screen. Is that... Yes, yes, yes. I mean, this is terrible. So you can see that. You couldn't see that at all. That is a protector for the screen. They hadn't even bothered to, unless I'm tearing the screen apart, they hadn't bothered to remove. So the screen won't be at least as reflective. But I mean, I shouldn't have to take apart the unit to do this, should I? Yeah, it's like it's not as reflective now, but it's not coming off in one, is it? It's not coming off in one. Oh, this thing's appalling. This thing, it's utterly abysmal. How do I get the rest off? Good news is I've got a better screen now that isn't as reflective. Still be dim, but it's not going to be as reflective. Bad news is the eWaste 8088 is still non-functional. Great. Right, well, I better sum up then. We've seen a little bit of footage of the thing running that I recorded last night. It certainly works. Processor timing isn't accurate in terms of being able to run proper 8088 software because it's not an 8088, despite what it says on there. It's a V20. Even if you put a proper 8088 in, which I haven't tried myself because I can't, because the thing's broken, although I have one in my office ready to go. Apparently the timings are still out and timing critical stuff will still not work. People have also reported issues with the speakers crackling or ceasing to work. Yeah, it's a right old mess really, this thing, isn't it? If you got one of these in for a week or so and played around with it, you'd probably gone, yeah, this is really cool. Quickly put a YouTube video out and say, hey, you know, there's a few problems with it, like the screen is really dim and is 16 by 9 or 16 by 10 or whatever it is. I think 16 by 9. And you wouldn't notice, but I think the advantage here of me having done a long-term test and really run it is just quite by chance on the day I need to do the review, the thing completely packs up on me. Totally. It's dead. It was erratic last night at times. You'll have seen in my battery test video. I thought that was just batteries failing or that the battery now wasn't charging. It's nothing to do with that. You can unplug the battery and it's still just as bad. These are units selling for £200 and they're selling plenty of them. They are selling plenty of them. They come in stock and go out of stock on AliExpress. And this isn't some small outfit, I think. It might be one guy working within a larger company making these, but it is, to do all this, to have all these bits available, they've got access to stuff and have a look at what else they've got in their shop to give you an idea of what they're selling. So, overall, what do I say to broken? Well, look, it's sold to you as an 8088 machine. It is not. You may get an 8088. Some people have. But that's not what I bought it for. I didn't buy it for a V20. I bought it for an 8088. I mean, doesn't it? Everything about it is just e-waste. I didn't get some of these free for review. I bought it with channel funds. I don't know what other people did, if they got them for free or what, or if they didn't test them enough. Perhaps I've got unlucky. Perhaps I've got this shoddily built one. That's it. That could be it. But I could go back and get a warranty repair on it. I don't think I want to. I don't think I can be bothered. I think I'm more interested in sending this to someone who knows their electronics to take it apart and just comment on the quality of the solder joints, the components, and all the rest of it. I think that's what I'm going to be trying to do with this. Find someone who can analyse it properly. In fact, I've got a couple of people in mind I might ask after this. But yeah, I think the long and short of this is, don't be tempted by flashy listings on AliExpress promising all sorts of things, even if they look really good and give you lots of technical documentation. It's AliExpress. It's just going to be shoddily built, and you can look at all this stuff and go, yeah, look at this, it's all really cool, but you're getting carried away with the nostalgia in the same way people got carried away with these other mini machines. And I guess I got carried away with this, although I wanted to see it for myself and review it on the channel. Yes, there's no quick. Oh, you can get little palm books, can't you? You can get little palm books and things with 286s and 386s, and it has no VGA either. Not VGA, but no external outputs. So, you know, there is that as well. So you aren't completely stuck with this screen. Yeah, it was a lovely idea, but I should have known better.